West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Okay, fellow Americans, here we are on a Wednesday, middle of the week. The Bill Press Show, Washington, D.C. is our home, but actually we're home wherever you are in this great land of ours, on radio, on television, on Free Speech TV, and on TawkrTV. And on this Wednesday, November 4, Democrats and progressives got clobbered yesterday in Tuesday's elections nationwide. Republican outsider Donald Trump lookalike Donald Bevin elected governor down in Kentucky. In Virginia, Terry McAuliffe, governor, Democratic governor, failed to win the state Senate for Democrats. It remains in Republican hands. In Ohio, voters said no to legalize pot. And in Houston, in a terrible, terrible outcome, the voters of Houston said it's okay to discriminate against women, against blacks, against Latinos, against gays, against anybody. It's okay to discriminate now in Houston, the discrimination capital of the world. Keystone Pipeline. President Obama says, I don't care what TransCanada wants. They may want to suspend consideration of the Keystone Pipeline. The White House says they're going to ignore that request. They're barging ahead. The president wants to make that decision himself, and he says he will before he leaves office. Donald Trump making news again yesterday at a book signing at Trump headquarters or the Trump Tower in Manhattan, where he called on any Republican candidates who are still down at 1 or 2% in the polls after all this time to simply drop out. Goodbye, Bobby Jindal, Rick Santorum, Lindsey Graham, George Pataki, and Jim Gilmore, if Donald Trump has his way. Lots to talk about, you see, as always. So we look forward to getting your calls at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday.
It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC. Or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Ohio voters say no to pot, and Houston voters say yes to discrimination against anybody. Hey, hello, everybody. What do you say? Morning after some pretty troubling election results yesterday across the land. We'll tell you all about it on today's edition of the Bill Press Show. Good that you're here. Good to see you today. Coming to you live from Washington, D.C., as always, in our studio right here on Capitol Hill. Waiting for Congress to get something done. Meanwhile, we'll just cover the rest of the news from Washington, from around the country, and around the globe. That's our job. Your job is to tell us what you think about it. Good to be here with you on your local progressive talk radio station this Wednesday, November 4. Good to be here with you on Free Speech TV as well, and on TawkrTV. Thank you for joining us, and join the fun, join the conversation. Just give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show, or on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. We look forward to hearing from you and have you join in the conversation with Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson on tap.
Yes, sir.
Hey,
right.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Here we are.
Ray Rogers here as well, ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Lights on, cameras on, action from Cyprian Bolding, our videographer. And when you win the World Series, you got a right to celebrate, don't you think?
Yeah. Hell yeah. I mean, we wouldn't know anything about that here
That's
in Washington,
right.
D.C.,
We wouldn't know because we can't even hire a manager without screwing that up. Boy, but the Nationals, man. I've heard a lot of talk about that in the last 24 hours.
Mess.
But out in Kansas City, they celebrated in, shall we say, royal style yesterday. And the mayor... Sly James, right? Sly James.
Come on now. Is that his name?
Yeah. Isn't that
incredible?
Cool?
My man.
Come on, yeah.
Sly James.
Sly, he savors the moment.
Best fans in the world! Best team in the world! Best city in the world!
Sly James, man.
Take it all in. Savor the moment.
Kansas City's got a great fan base.
Yeah.
They really do. They're incredible. I saw a couple of the games that went late during the World Series. They canceled school the next day.
Is that right?
Because they were just we know you guys were up late watching. Because 2 of the winning games went to extra innings, 12 innings, and then for the winning game, and then the first game was 14 innings.
Right.
So they just canceled school.
Oh, my God. Isn't
They
that
were just
great?
y'all stay home.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, how about that? Oh, that is so cool. By the way, it has a great fan base, which goes all the way to the White House, of course. Josh Earnest.
That's right.
From Kansas City. Came out yesterday with a Royals mug.
Of course he did.
Of course, yeah. And everybody wondered what was in the mug.
Yeah.
He said it was the sweet nectar of victory.
It's the champagne that they popped in the locker room.
That's it.
Yeah. I suspect there was something else in it.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
I hope it was.
I hope so, too. Exactly right. Hey, what a lot going on today. Congressman John Garamendi from California will be here in studio with us. David Jackson, we'll check in with him down at the White House. Kyle Kondik, University of Virginia, political genius, will be here in studio with us, as well as John Allen, who covers politics and as well as anybody, and wrote the great new book on Hillary Clinton. Well, last year's great book on Hillary Clinton. And all that patriotism, all those signs of patriotism at professional sports events, would you believe? The Pentagon is paying for it. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Good morning to Thor, the pit bull. Thor, the pit bull. This story is absolutely incredible. So you remember back in May, there were all kinds of floods in Texas.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Right.
All right, so there was a family in San Marcos, Texas, which is between Austin and San Antonio, and they had to evacuate, and they lost their dog. The dog ran away. Thor, the pit bull, he ran away while they were trying to evacuate. This was in Texas. They just found Thor in California.
No,
they don't know how in the world he made it there.
Wow.
But they found him. They found him in California. In Crescent City. They took him to an animal shelter.
Wait a minute. Crescent City?
Yeah, Crescent City, California.
I mean, you don't realize I was in Eureka. Crescent City is an hour and a half north of Eureka.
Really?
Huh. And I mean,
so not just California, but
Crescent City is like basically the Oregon border.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, Thor made it all the way up there. That's where they found him, in Crescent City. They took Thor to an animal shelter, and a lot of these dogs, when you adopt them, they have these microchips, right? So they use the microchip to find out where he's from. They said they still don't know how in the world he got to California. But here's the problem. It cost $1,500 to ship Thor back to Texas to his family, and the family says, we don't have that money.
Oh.
So someone is going to step up.
Yeah,
someone's going to step up and do it.
Yeah,
Someone's going to step up and do it. But
they could do a little crowdfunding.
I was going to say, $1,500
bucks.
Get Thor back with his family. Yeah,
right.
But shout out to Thor. That's
I'm glad to know he can still hitchhike in this country.
Yeah, right. I mean, he had to have gotten a ride, right? All right, so Jeb Bush didn't have a whole lot of great moments in the last debate, but one of the great moments was when he talked about the French work week. He talked about Marco Rubio not working. He said,
"Well, it was not a great moment for France.
It wasn't a great moment for France, but it was a moment that Jeb Bush showed that he could sort of well. Yesterday, Jeb Bush apologized to the French, which, by the way." Could disqualify him from any presidential candidacy. He says, I really did a disservice to the French when I joked about this with Marco Rubio. So he has now apologized. I just love that. We just celebrated Halloween, Bill, and in Colorado, there was a whole push to warn parents, beware for pot edibles, because people are buying pot edibles at the store and handing them out at to trick-or-treaters, right? Really dangerous, right? Well, it turns out the Denver Police Department announced yesterday that for the second year in a row, 0 pot edibles were handed out to
really?
children.
Yeah. Well, good.
I mean, shock, right? Like, who's going to hand out pot to kids, right? If you're going to get pot edibles, keep it for yourself.
Or hand them to their parents.
Or give them to the parents, yeah sure.
Right.
It's a lot of money to give out.
That's what I'm saying.
Little bite-sized treats.
Sure.
Yeah. So no pot edibles found.
I bet there were
kid.
parents accompanying their kids, right, on trick-or-treating who were just looking for pot edibles.
I guarantee that.
Yeah, I got to tell you, where I would like to start today is something I never heard of until yesterday, okay? I mean, we talk about all the issues of the day, every day here for 3 hours on the Bill Press Show. None of us had ever heard of this before. We kind of think we're on top of what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's at the White House, whether it's in the Congress, whether it's in the sports world or the education world or the medical world, or whether it's happening in France or whether it's happening in Iraq or Syria, you know, we're there. We cover it. We talk about it with you. You're on top of it. I had never heard of this before until yesterday at the White House briefing. Kelly O'Donnell.
I do know that the Department of Defense would likely say that these kinds of relationships enhance their recruiting efforts.
But to set it up as a way for fans to cheer or honor service members, If there's a payment, doesn't that sort of taint that tribute?
Well, I don't think so, primarily because I think the fans who are taking off their caps and offering a standing ovation do so not because of a financial interest, but because of their genuine appreciation for those soldiers or veterans who are being honored at the stadium.
So, Kelly O'Donnell, that's the exchange. I'm sitting in the back of the room, and I hear this exchange between Kelly O'Donnell and Josh Earnest, and I'm thinking, what are they talking about? What's she talking about? What is this all about? Because, I love going to, I hate professional football, which is why I don't do FanDuel, but everybody else does. But I love going to Nats games or best baseball games, right? And one of the best moments of any Major League Baseball game is when they salute the hometown, the local heroes. I mean, the Nats do it. They get them. They line them up there behind home plate.
Their own section.
They have their own section there, and these are the military veterans who are there that day. And everybody stands and applauds and takes their caps off, and it's a great moment. They play patriotic music, and it's great. And of course, they do that at almost every professional sporting event, right? Yeah. Whether it's hockey or basketball or baseball or football. And so
I can't think of a single time I've gone to any sporting event that they didn't have some sort of highlight.
No, particularly the NFL and particularly Major League Baseball. And so that got me thinking, and I started looking into it. And what Kelly O'Donnell was talking about is a report that actually first came out back in May, but just surfaced again because Jim Avila, who's a damn good reporter for ABC News, brought this up. And it has also gotten the attention in Congress that all of these tributes to the military at professional sporting events are paid for by the Pentagon. The Pentagon goes out and recruits professional sports teams to honor the military in their hometown, and they say, we'll pay you for it. It's sort of like anything from throwing out the first pitch to, which like the Milwaukee Brewers have done, among other teams, unfurling the American flag on the field like the Buffalo Bills do or have done, right? Dropping the first puck, just any of those little kinds of things, or just standing and saluting. And they even tell you, like, if you're going to salute the local hero, how long it has to be up on the Jumbotron, right? Yeah. All this kind of stuff. And it's all paid for. They pointed at that there have been, now Jeff Flake is a senator from Arizona, Republican, who picked this issue up in the United States Senate, and he talks about how much money is being paid for some of these events.
We have specific contracts spelling out, $20,000 for a salute to the hometown hero, actually specifying how long something had to be on the Jumbotron.
And Jeff Flake, Senator Flake, again, points out that, this is great to recognize our heroes, but there is a little something wrong with it when they're getting paid to do so.
These teams do a lot of good work. The problem is when activities like this are paid for by the taxpayer, it cheapens everything else they do.
Cheapens everything else they do. So I'd love your take on this. You think this is right? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it. And the Senate has so far uncovered 72 contracts with 50 different teams across the country, totaling, and we taxpayers have paid for over $6 million for these contracts in the last 3 years, between 2011 and 2014. That's the latest numbers are available. So all these salutes, we feel good, we're honoring our military, we're giving them the recognition they deserve, and the Pentagon is paying the team. First of all, why? I think this is horrible. I think this is terrible. It does cheapen it to me. It really takes the spontaneity and the genuine feeling, I think, about it. I think most people in those stadium, 99.99999% of the people in the stadium have no idea that this is a taxpayer-funded event. And why should professional teams get paid to do this? Yeah. They ought to do it because our military deserve that recognition and deserve to be treated as heroes and deserve to be recognized. I mean, if I see somebody in uniform at the airport, or on the subway or something like that, I'll always show them respect, and often I'll say, hey, thank you for what you're doing.
Sure.
Thanks for your service.
Do you get paid by...
No, I mean, I don't have my hand out. I don't send a bill to the Pentagon. I said hello to a member of the Navy today. Send me a check. It's terrible. John McCain yesterday, our number one veteran probably in this country, came out and said he thought it was totally unacceptable for this practice, and the Senate may actually go so far as to ban it. Don't you think it cheapens the whole thing?
I hate it.
I mean, no idea.
I guess they see this as some sort of recruitment tool, but I mean, what a gross way to go about it. I mean, you're not only using the people that go to the game and use the taxpayer dollars and all that, but you're using these soldiers and veterans, and just to shove them out there and use them in a cheap kind of stunt. If you're paying for it,
I'll tell you what it makes.
Awfully cheap.
I'll tell you what it makes me wonder. Like, for example, at the White House Correspondents' Dinner and a lot of other events in Washington, they have a color guard. Right, the color guard comes up. Now, I know we're paying for the color guard in that we're paying for the salaries of these people in the military. But is the Pentagon paying the White House Correspondents Association to have a color guard?
Right.
So we salute the flag?
That's a very good point. That's the difference.
Right?
Yeah. That's a very good point.
I would hope not, but I don't know. I'm going to find out. Yeah. But, I mean, from now on, I got to say, every time I go to a game and they do that, I'll probably stay seated. It just pisses me off.
I don't protest.
Yeah. I mean, let's honor our military. Absolutely. But, don't charge the team. I mean, pay the teams for doing so. Yeah. Or charge
millions of dollars they're paying for this.
Charge the Pentagon for doing so. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate this story.
Do it because you believe in it.
I hate this story.
866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it. I got to tell you, I don't like it either.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
This.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. When I say dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
At discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. Your moment is out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 27 minutes after the hour. We're talking about the practice of the Pentagon paying professional sports teams to honor military heroes from local communities. Congressman, Senator Jeff Flake from Arizona taking the lead on this in the Senate, Republican. He calls it paid patriotism. I like that phrase for it. I think that's kind of what it is, which is the two of those together kind of rather jarring when you hear that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The two together, which I think, in a sense, says what's wrong with it. You know,
yeah. Patriotism shouldn't be paid.
In one phrase. Let's say hello quickly to Larry in Marshfield. Is that Missouri? Yep. Hey, Larry.
Hey, how you doing?
All right. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's ridiculous that the Pentagon pays these sports teams that have such a large profit margin anyway.
Good point.
Do this, you know, and paid patriotism. That's.
Hello. Yeah, Larry, what happened to you? All right, I'm sorry, Larry. You made an excellent point though. These teams, it's not like they're hurting.
Right.
I mean, the owners. And the players and the money that they're getting, and then we are subsidizing them to honor the military. Larry, good to hear from you. I don't have your cell phone, but thanks for your call. More calls
Bill
coming
Press
up.
Show.
What the hell happened?
Officer, were you the one who arrested me? Gonna shake my hand? So I got invited to host a vigil called Carry the Names. And that's what they were doing, carrying the names of the people who were victims of deadly police force. Michael Brown, Eric Garner, that guy Gurley. I got a motion from Dragonfly from Stop Shopping Choir, and I started preaching. I preached up a storm as best I could, but about a minute and a half into my sermon, the place was flooded with police, Homeland Security, National Guard, state troopers, and I was pushed over and handcuffed so fast, down in the jail, down in the basement. Before you know it, I was out the door, put in prison overnight. The next morning, I'm in court. The same thing happens. I'm just rushed out of there. Then our lawyer, Wiley Steckler, gives me this iPhone. And there in black and white in the Gothamist, a popular paper, is this charge by Adam Lisberg, the MTA law enforcement spokesperson for this grand place. His quote is that I, Reverend Billy, physically attacked a police officer. Unbelievable. The feeling of being robbed of my work and life and identity, just the fiction. I did not touch anybody. I did not look. I know how to do this. I'm trained in nonviolence. I did not do anything. It was right here. It was right here. It happened right here. I was simply arrested while I was speaking and taken away, and that's it. The cold feeling in my city, the city that I love, that city spokespersons whose salary I pay for with my taxes, that they would say this. I can just feel the rending apart of the community, that we are not that close. We're not. They are willing to say this, and they think that they can just say anything about anybody and get away with it. So we have something in the Church of Stop Shopping called radical forgiveness. Amen?
Cops and bankers love their children.
I forgive the police.
We gotta love them too. Cops and bankers love their mothers.
But I'll stay radical.
Mothers love their brothers. We gotta love them too.
But we'll wake up every morning forgiving each other, reaching out, touching, telling stories, having humor, being in a community together, sharing our children, sharing the streets, sharing the climate, being in the city together. But forgiving each other, being grateful to each other, helping each other out, living together, living together.
I got a daughter just turned 4. What do we do in the superstore? What do we do with the blood and the gore? The water's rising through our door. Love our children too. Love our children too.
Amen. Earthalluia.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
Wednesday, November 4, 33 minutes after the hour, The Bill Press Show. Paying for patriotism. How about it? Just came to light here yesterday. For me, at any rate, you may have heard about it before. I'd never heard about it until it was raised at the White House briefing yesterday. It was pretty clear that Josh Earnest didn't know much about it either. You know, He gave sort of a half-hearted answer to Kelly O'Donnell. The issue was first raised back in May, and now it's come back again thanks to ABC News and also to ESPN, which have been reporting on it. And I guess mainly because Senator Jeff Flake from Arizona has started making some noise in the U.S. Senate about it. Senator Flake quoted in the National Journal back in May saying, quote, "Those of us who go to sporting events and see them honoring the heroes, you get a good feeling in your heart. Then to find out they're doing it because they're compensated for it leaves you underwhelmed. It seems a little unseemly." I'll say it seems a little unseemly.
A lot unseemly.
Yeah, and it sort of takes away the whole meaning of the event, I think. You shouldn't have to. But and again, Larry started us off making that point. These teams make so much money anyhow. You think the teams would be paying them. I would hope they would give them free seats, free meals.
God, I hope that's the case.
And maybe money for their kids' education or something. Instead, they're taking our tax dollars just to offer a tribute to the military. And why would the Pentagon be doing this? You're right, Peter. It may be a way of recruiting.
That's all I can think of. That's all I can
a lot
think
of
of.
young kids
Which is
there, but that's
shady,
still,
man.
That is shady. Yeah.
Shady.
How about 866-55-PRESS? What do you think of this practice? John McCain says it's unacceptable. Jeff Flake says we should ban it. Tom, up in Boston. Hey, Tom, how are you?
Good, Bill. How you doing?
All right, we're doing good. Good to hear from you again. Yeah.
Yes, good. How are you, Pete, Jamie?
Good, man. Good.
We're doing well.
Are you ready to face the wrath of the Washington football team this weekend?
Uh-oh.
I tell you, nobody can touch the Pats.
They look scary
You're darn
good,
right.
dude.
They do
They
look
look
good.
scary good. I mean, they cheat like crazy, so I don't...
Hey, Tom. Tom, you don't have to take that. No, you have
That's
to
a
take
matter of opinion, Bill.
that. All right, so what do you think about this paid patriotism, Tom?
Well, I think it's disgraceful. Me being a veteran myself, I feel offended that the Pentagon would be giving money to the ball teams. Now, if they really wanted to honor veterans, they would put that money to good use, like the Wounded Warrior Project or some other veteran.
Yeah, exactly. Right? They could say, we're honoring our veterans, and today we're making $1 million contribution to the Wounded Warriors Fund or whatever, right?
Yes, I agree 100%. So that's about it, Bill.
Instead of have their hands out to the Pentagon and to American taxpayers, say, thanks, Tom, so much. Good to hear from you, my friend. But, saying, yeah, we'll be glad to have a little in between, take a little time out and get everybody to salute the veterans. But gimme. Yeah, let's have some. It just takes the edge away for sure. 866-55-PRESS, your toll-free number. And you know what I like about this? What it is? That's why I go to the briefings. You never know, right? What's going to pop up?
Yeah.
And again with Kelly O'Donnell asking this question, I think it caught Josh Ernest, and I'm sitting there back there thinking, what the hell is she talking about? I couldn't wait to get to my computer so I could check it out.
It's a crazy story. It really is, and good for her for bringing it up at a briefing. I mean, that's certainly a topic that the White House should be talking about, and it wasn't on my radar at all.
I think you will be hearing more about it. And her question, which was so what does the Pentagon defends a practice? They say it's part of their recruiting, and her question was, what does the commander-in-chief think about all of this? Again, just putting it in context, it was over $6 million between 2011 and 2014, 72 different contracts, 50 different teams, covering everything from showing the flag. Yeah, do you think they get paid to put the flag over the stadium? Rolling out the flag, throwing out the first pitch, dropping the first puck, singing the national anthem, all those kinds of things, or just having people stand up and get recognized by the crowd.
Yeah, I can't think of many other ways to say it. It's just really messed up.
Yeah.
It's really messed up.
All right. We'll take a look at that and other issues as we move along. By the way, just jumping quickly, moving along to a couple. I'm going to talk to David Jackson from USA Today coming up next. But Donald Trump was at it again yesterday.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yes. He's got a new book out. What's it called? Crippled America or something like that. I forget.
I'm sure it's something.
Crippled America, I think.
There's a full-page ad I saw yesterday. And so he has a book signing at Trump Tower in New York yesterday where...
Crippled America.
Crippled America, right. Where he took out now his latest target, I should say, is Marco Rubio.
He's feeling the heat.
Marco is overrated. And frankly, had Bush been a better messenger, he has the better message.
That is an attack on both of them.
2 for 1.
It's a 2
I love that 2 for 1.
2 for, yeah. Marco, overrated. Yeah. Bush is a better messenger, but Marco's just delivering a better capable of delivering a message.
By the way, new this morning, Quinnipiac poll on the Republican nomination, number 1 on the list is Donald Trump. 24%. Ben Carson right behind him at 23%.
This is nationwide.
This is nationwide. Yes, sorry, nationwide.
Yeah.
Trump, Carson. Number 3 is Marco Rubio with 14%, and followed closely by Ted Cruz with 13%. After that, you've got Bush, Carly, Chris Christie, Kasich, Paul, Huckabee.
And Bush is single digits?
Bush is 4%.
Oh, my God.
4%. So really it's Trump, Carson, Rubio, Cruz. All of them are 13% and above. And then after that, it's a steep drop-off to Bush at 4%.
Back to the Donald Trump on Marco Rubio. He also is raising an issue about Marco Rubio that was raised sometime back, and there are rumors all the time, and the Bush campaign has been spreading these rumors, that Rubio's got some financial problems. There was a house he bought that he was not up to date on the payments on or something like that, and apparently some problem with his credit card rating. And there are all these rumors about it. Who knows what the truth is, but that doesn't stop Donald Trump.
His credit card debt and his problems with credit card and what he did when he was running the party apparatus with credit cards. I've heard about it for years. You'll have to find out.
Yeah. I just heard about it. It for years.
It's so great.
And then Trump went on to say, and maybe the unkindest cut of all, he said, look, remember, I guess it was in the last debate or the one before that, where he talked about John Kasich. I think it was this one before that. And he said, I know what John Kasich is saying, and I know why he's saying it, because he's single digits in the polls. He's way down in the polls. That's why he's over there at the edge of the platform, edge of the stage, and not in the center of the stage where I am. Remember? He went after Kasich. Well, yesterday he kind of did it again. He said, we've been at this for like 4 or 5 months. Anybody who's still down or 1 or 2% in the polls, they ought to just drop out.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. All right. So that, of course, means Bobby Jindal and Rick Santorum, George Pataki, Jim Gilmore, and Lindsey Graham, and maybe a couple of others, too.
Yeah. I mean, geez, some of those names weren't even registering on this latest Quinnipiac poll.
Right. But you know what? As crazy as it is for Trump to say that, it's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, they ought to get out. I mean, come on.
Right. I mean,
how long are they going to drag this out?
Part of the reason that
I mean, Lawrence Lessig quit.
Yeah, right. I mean, and so did Lee Chafee and Jim Webb, and they were registering. I mean, Jim Webb was polling higher than Martin O'Malley in some polls. But part of the reason that these debates, I think, have gotten so out of control is there's just too damn many of them. Of the candidates on stage, it's just so much, and everyone's got to chirp in and try and get their comments in. It just sort of runs away from them. I'd love to see a couple of them just go away.
Right. I think I mentioned on the show last week that I ran into a friend of mine who's a very well-known Democratic strategist. I don't want to reveal his name on the air, who said the only way that Republicans are going to stop Trump is if 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 of them or whatever all band together and say, we are going to drop out and throw all of our support to X, right, to Marco Rubio or to Jeb Bush or to somebody. The problem is you could take the bottom 5 or 6 or 7 Republican candidates and all the support they've got together, right, and it might add up to 10%.
Yeah. Right.
So they don't have enough to overtake.
It wouldn't even matter.
Collectively.
Some mega candidate.
They don't have enough to overtake Trump collectively. All right. Again, early in the morning with David Jackson standing by at the White House for USA Today. We'll talk to him next.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
I am your toilet. So how do you do? I take away your wee and the odd number 2. For a quiet moment, I'll always be there, bringing you troubles. You don't even have to care. Oh, think about the things you put me through. Things you put me through that have been through you. Stuff from your body I'll happily take. Liquid or solid, whatever you make. When you think of all the things that I do, it's time to say thanks to your Lou. If I wasn't there anymore, you can only imagine disaster. I am a lifesaver, and that is not a lie. Where I don't exist, thousands die. So next time you have to do a poo or a wee, thank the sanitary saints that you have me. When you think of all the things that I do, it's time to say thanks to your Lou. La 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 la. It's time to say thank you to your Lou.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To
not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Council.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, now 13 minutes before the top of the hour. Yes, indeed. Started out yesterday at the briefing. I thought we were going to be talking serious business. Instead, Josh Earnest walks out with a Royals mug, and we started talking about World Series. David Jackson at the White House for USA Today. That's a reason for Josh to celebrate, David, huh?
For sure. His favorite baseball team, the Kansas City Royals, which for years were the dregs of Major League Baseball, are now the champions of Major League Baseball. So he's a happy boy. It's interesting, Bill. You know, there's been a series of press secretaries who've had their favorite teams win titles. We had Jay Carney in the Boston Red Sox.
Right.
Scott McClellan and the University of Texas football team won his national title on his watch. So,
but didn't
maybe it's a little
Gibbs?
tradition.
I remember Gibbs coming in with a jersey one day. I forget.
That's right. Gibbs is. I totally forgot.
Gibbs won a championship.
Auburn football.
Yeah. Remember, he came in and he had. He promised to wear that jersey or something like that. He took his jacket off, and there it was, or took a sweater off, and there it was, or something.
Yeah, they won a national championship.
Right.
So that's 4 of them. It's like a tradition.
No kidding.
Now.
How about that? Yeah.
All right. There's your story for the day, David.
Let's hope the next press secretary is a Nationals fan.
Yeah, right.
Oh, God. I don't know the way it's going. Nothing can save them.
That's what we need. Now, by my count yesterday, David, there were 17 questions asked, and 9 of them were about Keystone Pipeline.
Well, all that shows, Bill, there's not a hell of a lot going on right now. It's a really slow news time. Keystone, the people that want to build the pipeline have asked the Obama administration to delay the decision until after the election. They're figuring maybe they'll get a better deal under the next administration. State Department says it's still reviewing. And I don't know. It's very up in the air. I mean, the review's been going on for a long time now. Who knows when we might hear some decision? You know, the only interesting thing I think about is, the new I thought the new prime minister might oppose this project, but he doesn't. Trudeau supports it.
Oh,
so.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I
right.
didn't realize that either until someone from the White House, because that was my question: was does Trudeau have something to do with this? And the guy told me, well, maybe, but he supports it just as well as Harper did.
Well, the White House seemed, well, they clearly said yesterday, well, we don't care if TransCanada wants to pause. We don't think we ought to pause, right? They're still reviewing it. I didn't think they'd given them their final answer, but
the White House wants to stay out of it. Their whole thing is, look, it's a State Department thing. We don't want to interfere with it. So
but Josh did say that President Obama plans to make a decision still, right, before he leaves office.
That's always been my understanding. I mean, I think we could have had the decision I've been told it could happen any time. Just be ready now. Whether or not this request by Canada changes it, or whether the new government in Canada, whether that has an effect on it, I don't know.
I was also surprised that there were not more questions. I wasn't there Friday because I was traveling, but about Syria and about these 50 special forces that have been sent into Syria. How can they make the argument that these are not combat troops?
Oh, they can't. I mean, they can just do what they want. They basically just saying I hate to use the Vietnam analogy, but it's in this limited sense. I think it's legitimate. They're considered advisors. They're just supposed to go in and tell the people what they're supposed to be doing. But we all know that when you're standing there telling somebody and you come under attack, you're going to get involved. So. Yeah, there's a grave danger that one of these 50 guys could get killed, which would be a very big story if that happens. So
absolutely, but
it's only non-combat troops on paper.
Correct. I mean, it seems to me and by the way, I remember the same argument. This administration made the same argument when we were conducting raids over Libya, bombing raids over Libya, right? That they were not combat troops because they were. They were up in the air, I guess.
Right. They were assisting.
Their boots weren't on the ground. But here you've got our pilots who are dropping bombs on Syria. Now our advisors are in there telling people, working with local forces on the ground. They're combat forces.
Right. And there's some indication we're going to be calling in some bombing strikes. So, yeah, it's about as close as you can get without declaring it. But the other thing is only 50 of them, so it's a small force. Of course, small forces tend to grow, but it's going to be very interesting to see how all this unfolds. You know, Obama's he's got a big Asia trip coming up in a couple of weeks.
I was going to ask you about that next. Yeah, where this trip is huge. He's going to Turkey, or what's
going to Turkey. I don't know if there's a formal meeting there, but obviously he's going to be meeting with the Prime Minister of Turkey, and of course they're involved with ISIS because of the refugee situation and all the rest, and that's going to be topic one there for sure. Going to the Philippines for APEC, which is the Asian Economic Summit, and I'm sure ISIS will probably come up there, but it's mostly about the Trans-Pacific Partnership and free trade. And then he goes back to Malaysia for a meeting of Southeast Asian nations, and trade's going to be the big focus there, but here again there'll also be a lot of talk about ISIS.
How soon before we see President Obama welcoming Paul Ryan to the Oval Office?
No, it won't be long.
Yeah.
Whenever Ryan wants to come over here. So I think, December 11th is the thing. So obviously, if it's, let me see, if it's not next week, it'll probably be in December because he's got the Asia trip coming up. But it'll be pretty soon.
You would think they would do that just to at least give the pretense, right, of a new partnership or something.
But Ryan, he's got those sensitivities with his hard right, and he doesn't want to go running over the White House any sooner than he has to. So it's all a very delicate dance right now. But it wouldn't surprise me to see him hook up next week.
Yeah, Josh said that if Speaker Ryan wants to reach out, he'll find a willing partner or something along those lines at the White House. And yesterday, however, Ryan said he wasn't going to do anything on immigration because he didn't trust President Obama. Not off to a good start, huh?
Well, he said he'd do something as long as there's enforcement. As long as the White House gave the Republicans what they wanted in an immigration bill, he'd be willing to talk to them.
Yeah, right.
There's a bit of a personal friction, I think, between the president and Ryan. Remember the president gave some speech a couple of years ago blasting Republicans after inviting Ryan and some of his colleagues over. So.
Right. Yeah.
I think there's some bruised feelings.
There is a little history there. All right. All right, Dave, we have another briefing at 12:30 today. I'll see you down there. And
let's hope some more news pops up before then.
Let's hope so. Let's make it happen. All right. See you down there. Thanks, David. David Jackson, USAtoday.com at the White House.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
came here to Foster City, where we're going to watch UC Berkeley, a University of California SWAT team, do a hostage rescue scenario.
Should I put the water in there now?
Yeah, go ahead. This is like some kind of chemical agent?
Yeah. Copy, we're ready. I'm gonna get shot. I already know it, dude. Fiend's yelling at me.
Help me. Show your hands. Help me. Show your hands. Back to
Gentlemen, we have a chemical. We need to pull our person out. Get these guys out of here. Pull them out.
Put your hands on your face. Put your hands on your face.
Keep him covered.
Your head up. He's got a shotgun back there.
That's all right. Keep his hands up where we can.
Hands on your face.
Hands on your face. On your face.
Someone cover me. I got a holster up, bro.
Okay, pull him around the corner. Pick him up. Get him out of the building. Quickly. We've got this. Let's get that guy out of there. You, come towards us. Keep your hands on your face. Turn around. Face away from us. Back towards us. Quickly. Back up towards me. Quickly. Pull him out of the room.
We're exfilling, Billy.
Yes, we are exfilling.
It was actually around 92, 94. There was an attack on the chancellor at his residence, which is on campus. And we realized at the time that we didn't have any resources to deal with that kind of threat when it took place. So, and I think about 15 years before, they had some kind of semblance of a SWAT team. So they regenerated the idea of activating a SWAT team.
And then since then, you guys have kind of branched out to doing what kind of stuff?
Well, since then, we train for everything. We train for every eventuality, barricaded subjects. Like I said, most of what we do is high-risk warrants.
And it's something like, it could be like a mugging kind of thing, just like on the street?
Depends. I mean, a mugging, but if it's armed, particularly.
Right, an armed mugging,
right, exactly. And then, obviously, we're looking for training for anything else that we might be faced with. And that's what's great about Urban Shield is, we couldn't duplicate this on our own.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Kyle Kondik from the University of Virginia Center for Politics joins us at the top of the next hour. And then John Allen, who wrote the great book on Hillary Clinton, HRC, coming along as well. Peter?
Coming up this weekend, Bill.
Yes.
Saturday Night Live.
Oh,
and their guest host, Donald Trump. He was asked yesterday about whether or not he's going to do any impressions, because SNL is known for that. And he said he didn't know. And someone said, would you do a Jeb Bush impression? He says, my Jeb Bush impression? I don't think I'm going to do that because he's such a boring guy. I don't like to show a person sleeping at the podium.
Oh, God.
So
you know what?
I guess he's not going to do a Jeb Bush impression.
I bet he starts out and he attacks every one of the other 14 candidates.
Sure he will.
These will probably be record high ratings, right? Don't you think? For Saturday Night Live?
Yeah.
Amazing ratings.
Huge ratings.
Talk politics next with Kyle
This
Kondik.
is the Bill Press Show.
I'm a Pistons fan. Their slogan was, we come to work. That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas, too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. I'm not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself, blood pressure, or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough, they adapt, but only can do so much when your politicians ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not gonna let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or wherever. We're gonna fight to the bitter end. Detroit gonna survive.
Just this month, my bill was like $138.
Even at one phone call a week cost me $40 to $50 every month.
I am living on a fixed income of SSI, so this is really a great hardship. Families are being punished. When they incarcerate their children, they incarcerate the whole family.
In 2011, the Media Action Grassroots Network, Working Narratives, and Prison Legal News founded the Campaign for Prison Phone Justice, an effort to call on the FCC to address the cost of interstate phone calls. The campaign mobilized prisoners to send hundreds of letters. Advocates and families filled out postcards, met with elected officials, and signed petitions. partnerships were formed across the political spectrum and with groups in the criminal justice, civil rights, and public interest community. The film distribution company Participant Media and director Ava DuVernay joined the fight through a social action campaign tied to the release of the feature film Middle of Nowhere. In an effort to push the FCC to act, the campaign hosted a historic rally outside of the Federal Communications Commission where for the first time, families of prisoners, elected officials, civil rights and faith leaders came together to call for an end to predatory phone rates.
We're all held captive when predatory phone companies gouge our families.
My son has been incarcerated now for over 10 years, and my husband estimates that in the time we spent over $25,000 on prison phone calls.
My hero's not yours, you probably arrested them. Your schools probably neglected them. They spawn thoughts, you probably infected them. Feed us what you feed us, you can lay us next to them. FBI call it major crimes. Babies making babies cry.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Voters in Houston say yes to discrimination. In Ohio, they say no to pot. Hello, everybody. What do you say? The morning after some strange election results around the country today. It is The Bill Press Show. It is Wednesday, November 4. We're here with you in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Looking out to you all across this great land of ours on Free Speech TV and on your local radio station. And whether you're watching or listening, we appreciate your being with us today and look forward to talking with you about the issues of the day. 866-55-PRESS is your ticket to join the conversation. That's our toll-free number. Look forward to getting your calls and also your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Welcome to the program. Welcome to the team, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Hello, Bill.
Hey, good morning.
With Ray Rogers on the phones on the switchboard there to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS and Cyprian Bolding on the video cam this morning for Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. Going to talk politics here at the top of the hour. Nobody better to talk politics with than Kyle Kondik from the University of Virginia's Center for Politics, managing editor of the Crystal Ball down there, and author of a new book coming out early in 2016 called The Bellwether: Why Ohio Picks the President. Hello, Kyle. Good to see you.
Hey, Bill. Thanks for having me.
You've been busy. Got a lot going on, huh?
And there is a ton going on election-wise, too. Not just on the presidential level, but a lot of interesting results yesterday.
I know. And also a lot of interesting races beyond president in 2016,
Absolutely.
Which is important to remind us. And then, Virginia politics is always very, very interesting, Kyle, we find. And Terry McAuliffe, now the governor, didn't fare so well yesterday. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But I think the race that you and Larry Sabato were probably most interested in was the race for Chris Carlo's race for sheriff. I forget what county it was, but Chris Carlo, he decided he had to stand out among the candidates with his ad. So he did something a little different. He did a rap ad here for sheriff.
I'll be the sheriff that stands and fights against any treason that sells your rights. We'll jail these traitors that steal and cheat and put them on trial for all their deceit. Never taught in school, but the answer's at hand. Together we'll fight the plague of the land. The power of the people is the way that it reads, not the power of the money or the power of the greed. Carlo, listen.
There it is. I would say...
Trump is about to do his first ad, supposedly, so maybe we've got a template there,
Thanks for pulling that clip, Jamie. That was great.
What do we now? Here's what I want to know: is do you think he's from Northern Virginia or Southern Virginia? I
just get. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I honestly don't know.
I sort of have the feeling he's not from the Washington suburbs, right?
Well, I mean, just because he might not be targeting his message correctly doesn't necessarily mean we know where he's from.
That's true. All right, we'll see if he shows up on the radar. I don't know how he did yesterday, by the way.
Yeah.
So
I hope he lost with something that terrible. That's awful. Good grief.
Kyle here with us for the first half hour. John Allen, who author of the big book on Hillary, HRC, last year, will be joining us here in studio, and then Congressman John Garamendi in the next hour. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Okay, so we've all gone to hotels where they sell you the Wi-Fi, right? You go, you check in, and they say you can access our Wi-Fi for $9.99
so
a day.
Passé now.
I agree.
I mean,
well, some of these hotels went so far as to even block outside Wi-Fi or like outside data connections, right? So you had no other choice if you wanted to get online. You had to buy their stuff. The FCC said they do not like that idea, and they have fined Hilton Hotels and MC Dean $750,000 for blocking access to Wi-Fi and data on your phone, tablet, or computer. Their whole business model was they're going to pay to put in devices that will block your data, so you have to get the Wi-Fi. And again, the FCC says, no way, Jose, you can't do that. So $750,000 is the fine that they're going to have to pay.
It just ought to go today. You check into a place, you get free Wi-Fi.
It's also amazing. I found that the better hotels often are the ones that charge.
Yes.
So you're paying more for the room, and then you're also having to pay for
absolutely
Wi-Fi.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Hey, Jon Stewart, his retirement didn't last very long. We found out yesterday he signed a 4-year deal with HBO. He is going to start working on, quote, short-form digital content. This will not make him the star of anything. He's not going to put his face on TV, but he's going to be working on creating some new content for HBO. So we will...
But you knew he was not just going to sit back and...
The line that he kept telling people was
walk his dog.
He was going to go and start an animal sanctuary in upstate New York, which he and his wife did do. But how long has he been retired? A month and a half? 2 months maybe?
HBO's been on a hiring spree because they also brought on Bill Simmons. Used to be with ESPN, and he had his boutique site Grantland, and that Simmons left, and ESPN just shut that down.
Yeah. The HBO is really spending some money to get some talent to see what they do there. And yesterday, the college football playoffs were announced, the rankings. We've been waiting all season for this because we have the polls, the coaches' polls and the AP polls, but these are the ones that actually count. These are the rankings to figure out who makes it to the college football playoff later on in the year. We have our top 4. Number 1 is Clemson. Number 2 is LSU. Number 3 is Ohio State, and number 4 is Alabama, somehow leapfrogging over other undefeated teams, by the way, to make it into the top 4. The first 2 out, which are make it the number 5 and 6, are Notre Dame and Baylor. So a lot of this is going to get worked out, right? Alabama plays LSU this weekend, which means one of those are presumably going to get knocked out of those rankings, whoever wins that game, and then that'll be shaken up every single week, but... Those are our top 4 in college football as of now.
Hey, Peter, where are my Ohio University Bobcats? Are they 7th or what?
Must have just finished just outside of the top 6 there, Kyle.
Watch out for them later in the year.
I'm sure they're going to make a run here at the end, though.
You should ask Cyprian where Maryland is.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed. Kyle, let's run through... some of the big votes yesterday. Start in Kentucky.
So
big surprise, huh?
Yeah, so a lot of the pre-election indicators sort of suggested that the Attorney General Jack Conway was a favorite going in there. I think most people looked at Conway as a favorite, and then Matt Bevin, a Republican, ended up winning very comfortably. He won by about 9 or 10 points. Mm-hmm. Bevin spent the whole race feuding with the press, feuding with his fellow Republicans.
He ran against Mitch McConnell a couple years ago.
He got beat by McConnell in a Senate primary last year. McConnell, to his credit, turned around and supported Bevin this year. Bevin kind of kept him at arm's length, but ultimately, you got to tip your cap to Bevin. But also, it was a confirmation that despite all the campaigning, the fact that Democrats spent more money, Kentucky's just become a very Republican state at the federal level, and now that's kind of bled down to the statewide level, too.
Matt Bevin, who was criticized even by some of his fellow Republicans for the kind of campaign he was running, he's an outsider, never held political office, multimillionaire, compared to Donald Trump. And so does this sort of indicate still the affection for outsiders?
I don't know. I think that again, Bevin was a Republican in a year when Obama's in the White House. It was an open seat. And so I don't necessarily know if we should have been all that surprised that he ended up winning. Maybe the margin was a little bit bigger than most thought, but ultimately he was in the right place at the right time.
But Kentucky is certainly a red state, but it's had a Democratic governor for most of the last 45 years.
Yeah, I think that a lot of these Appalachian states have really turned against Democrats. I mean, it started before Obama, but certainly Obama's kind of accelerated the process. And it leads one to think that maybe Democrats might lose governorships in, say, a state like West Virginia, which is voting next year for governor.
What about Virginia? State Senate was up in Virginia. Terry McAuliffe wanted to flip it to Democratic control. Didn't work.
So the Virginia Senate was 21-19 Republican going in. It stayed 21-19 Republican. In fact, I believe there were 122 incumbents running for re-election in both the State House of Delegates and the State Senate, and every single one won.
Really?
So you want to talk about the year of the outsider? It certainly wasn't that case in Virginia.
How about Ohio?
So there was a marijuana referendum on the ballot that basically would have legalized marijuana in Ohio and also created basically a monopoly for certain people to distribute it.
The people who paid to put the initiative on the ballot and paid for all the advertising would have been the only ones allowed to grow pot and sell it.
It got crushed. In fact, to show how much it got crushed, I believe it lost Athens County, which I just mentioned, Ohio University, my alma mater.
Oh, wow.
Athens County is one of the most democratic counties in the state, and also, with a big college, a lot of college voters, you'd think maybe it would be supported there, but I believe it lost Athens County.
Might have been some pot scene in Athens County.
Maybe some people wanted to protect their own monopolies in certain places, and so they didn't want it to be legalized.
Also, I can't think of anybody worse to go sell marijuana than Nick Lachey. He was like the big face.
Yeah, he was the face of
the
it.
pod push. The singer from a boy band is up. I mean, come on.
But I mean, I think that
what's cool about
I think
that?
the mistake there was obviously in Colorado, Washington State, Alaska, Oregon, right? It's just so these are opportunities for anybody to get into business and grow or whatever. And in Ohio, it was more. Pot was not so much the issue as the monopoly. Is that?
I think that's probably right. Actually, kind of reminds me of California's setup, where you now have a situation where you have medical marijuana, and then the people who have the medical marijuana companies want to shut out everyone else.
Yeah.
And Ohio also passed another statewide ballot issue that would basically prevent anyone from proposing a ballot issue that would create a monopoly.
Oh.
So to try to, it was essentially in reaction to this. And a few years ago, Ohio passed allowed casinos, and that created a monopoly for certain companies, including the Dan Gilbert, who's with Quicken Loans and the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I think a lot of people saw that and thought, well, is it really fair to just have the casinos for a certain small group of rich people?
Right.
So that was also why that other issue was proposed.
Overall, yesterday, not a good day for progressives or Democrats, except in Mississippi, of all places.
I don't know if I would say it was good for progressives, but it was good for Democrats. The only statewide elected Democrat in the Deep South, Jim Hood of Mississippi, won re-election. It did so quite comfortably. He's a very popular guy in Mississippi, and so that was one victory for Democrats nationally. Also, Democrats.
He's the Attorney General.
He's the Attorney General.
Re-elected then in Mississippi.
Right. And Democrats also won 3 seats on the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court, which is noteworthy only in that it will help them in redistricting after the next census.
And New Jersey too, didn't?
Yeah, Democrats netted House seats, state House seats in New Jersey. Chris Christie actually seems to be doing a little bit better in the presidential race lately. His favorability amongst Republicans is improving, but back home things are worse than ever for him, and his party is just already, was already way behind in the House and lost more ground.
And finally, Houston. The headline in the Huffington Post this morning: fear wins in Houston. LGBT equality rejected.
That was a municipal issue there. That was a kind of a nasty campaign about you don't want men in women's bathrooms, and it just goes to show whatever your feelings on that particular issue might have been. Just because we have same-sex marriage nationally now doesn't necessarily mean that every pro same-sex piece of ballot issue or whatever is going to pass.
But this was an existing ordinance, right, that banned discrimination against 15 different categories based on sex or religion or sexual orientation or race or whatever. And the voters overturned it, right?
That's right. And,
which almost says that any form of discrimination is allowed today in Houston?
I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but certainly I think that same-sex marriage advocates and gay advocates are pretty upset about the result.
Yeah, it's pretty troubling, and it was all based on fear. The fear that men might be able, under this ordinance, that men might be able to go into women's bathrooms and put them at risk.
It's interesting. The same-sex marriage fight is now over, and I think maybe the next step is basically transgender rights, and that's going to be a challenging thing for advocates to pursue over the next many years. And remember, the same-sex marriage lost the ballot in a lot of places. As recently as the mid-2000s.
Right, 11 different states in 2004 when George Bush was up for re-election. Kyle Kondik here with us from the University of Virginia Center for Politics. He is also saying that maybe, just maybe, Democrats might be able to win the House next year. Kyle, can't believe you said that. Tell us all about it when we come back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
When I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. They really press our buttons. They activate our dopamine network, our cravings. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. And then the last point about corporate cooking that's important to understand is they cook different stuff than you do at home. What they're good at, in general, they don't cook that well, but things like chips, they cook incredibly well. And here's a classic food that if you make it yourself, if you've ever made French fries, you have to wash the potatoes, you have to peel the potatoes, you have to slice the potatoes, you have to fry them in a lot of oil, you have to spatter your entire stovetop. You have to clean up, and then you have this pot of oil you have to get rid of. I mean, it's really difficult, and it's a pain. They're wonderful, but it's a pain. And if you make them yourself, you'll only eat them every 6 weeks, 2 months, because it's too much work. But when you let corporations cook for you, it's so simple and so inexpensive, and they're really good, that you will have them twice a day, as many people in America do. So you see the kinds of foods you end up with are these labor-intensive foods and desserts. These special occasion foods become everyday foods when we let industry cook for us. Eat anything you want, just cook it yourself.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour, here we are on the Bill Press Show with Kyle Kondik. He's got a new book out called The Bellwether, Why Ohio Picks the President, coming out early in 2016. Yep. So, Kyle, Democrats really winning back the House?
So I sketched out kind of a long shot scenario in Politico magazine.
It's on Politico magazine, yeah.
And basically talked about how if someone like Donald Trump or Ben Carson were the Republican nominee, you might expect the Democrats to win the White House and not by just a little, because I think that there are serious questions about the national viability of a candidate like that. I think you could probably throw Ted Cruz into that group too, because they're outspoken conservatives. They're the kinds of Republicans who might do particularly poorly because they're so outspoken on social issues, particularly Carson and Cruz. And so what if it was a world where not only the Democratic nominee, Hillary Clinton, won, but she won by more than Obama did in 2012? What if she won like Obama did in 2008? And so while Mitt Romney actually won a majority of House districts in 2012, under the same lines, which are favorable to Republicans, Obama won 237 House districts in 2008. And that's more than the 218 you would need. And what would be interesting to see is if a Trump or Carson candidacy would be so poor that it would create damage down the ticket, in which case it would open up the suburbs, I think, to electing some Democrats to the House potentially.
So it would be coattails of a strong Democratic candidate over...
Yes, and negative coattails for the Republican. And it's interesting. So the two big landslide elections everyone always talks about is 1964 when Lyndon Johnson crushed Barry Goldwater, and then 72 when Richard Nixon crushed George McGovern. In 72, Nixon had no coattails at all. Democrats were able to sort of separate themselves from McGovern. But in 64, even though Democrats went into that election with a big House majority, they added 37 House seats. Wow. So Goldwater was an anchor on the rest of the ticket. So again, I think as the Republicans are considering these questionable candidates, there's a possibility for down ballot damage.
Centerforpolitics.org. Keep up with Kyle Kondik. I'm Larry Sabato. Thank you, Kyle.
Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
extend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
He's not running for president, but he will shake hands and kiss babies. It's the Bill Press Show, your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election.
I say it every time. I will shake hands. I will kiss babies. I will accept campaign contributions. BillPressShow.com. Hello, everybody. 33 minutes after the hour. What do you say? It's the Bill Press Show. Wednesday, November 4, here with you on your local progressive talk radio station and here with you on Free Speech TV as well. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and we're brought to you by AFSCME, the good men and women of AFSCME, under President Lee Saunders, representing the largest public employee and healthcare workers union in the entire country. They're making America happen. They endorsed Hillary Clinton yesterday for President of the United States. Find out more about from their website, why they did so, at AFSCME, AFSCME.org. Speaking of Hillary Clinton, the man who wrote, here it is, the great book on Hillary last year, HRC with Amy Parnes, John Allen. Hey, John, great to see you this morning.
Great to see you. You have the copy still. Looks like you've read it.
We both. We're ready for the sequel coming when?
As soon as my fingers and Amy Parnes' fingers can type it.
All right. At
post-election.
Underway, right?
Underway.
Okay. Let's start on the Democratic side. Then I want to ask about the latest Republican poll too. But Hillary Clinton looking pretty strong after the Benghazi hearing. The latest NBC Wall Street Journal poll nationwide, Hillary Clinton 64, Bernie Sanders 31, Martin O'Malley 3, and Peter just told us that the who is it?
In South Carolina?
MSNBC. MSNBC looking at South Carolina, Hillary Clinton 71, Bernie Sanders 15. Is this all over?
Yes. I mean, short of some sort of cosmic event, yes, it's all over. I think, what you see with Bernie Sanders is still, even after having been on the campaign trail for many months now and getting a lot of free media attention, still hasn't broken in with African-American voters or Latino voters in any real way. I mean, that South Carolina is majority African-American in its Democratic primary, 71-15 there for Clinton. The reason that matters so much, and the reason that I think that the national poll actually may not be even as reflective of Hillary Clinton's lead as his reality, is that when you talk about getting a nomination, it's about getting delegates. And the delegate math is skewed toward running up the vote in big cities. And big cities are tend to be more populated by African Americans and Latinos in certain states for certain. And as a result of that, I think the likelihood of a huge delegate gap between them is even bigger than, say, the polling number that you see right now of 64-31, I think is the number you quoted.
It's also, delegates also have a lot to do with, so there are two kinds of delegates, those won in the state primaries and then those who are the so-called super delegates. When I went to the DNC meeting in Minneapolis, right, where Hillary and Bernie and Martin O'Malley and Lincoln Chafee all spoke, it was pretty clear. The super delegates were in that room. The super delegates were already locked to Hillary. In fact, she had a reception the night before they spoke where you could not get in unless you signed a form saying, I will be a delegate for Hillary Clinton to the convention. And people wanted to go to that reception. Obviously, you couldn't get in unless you pledged. Right.
Well, nobody would call the Clintons dumb. Some
people were complaining about it, but they said, look, you're with us or you're not. You don't get a free drink unless you sign up.
I think everybody knows that's the score.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about them this time is, about her this time is, I think by and large, she's wiped the slate clean from past elections, her own, from Bill's, from his presidency, and said, you get a chance to get on board again. You can be with us, but you got to get with us. And I think they've been trying to go for the jugular with Sanders the last couple of weeks when you talk about the stuff about guns and basically accusing him of sexism and talking about people shouting about guns. I think they're trying to knock him out now so that they don't get pulled any farther to the left.
And is this, when you look at her strength in these polls, is this why Joe Biden decided not to run?
Yes. I mean, he said it in the interview that he did after deciding, I think it was 60 Minutes. He said he did it because he couldn't win.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he looked at the numbers, and to the extent that he could pull some away from Hillary Clinton, he couldn't pull that much. So you would have just had a three-way race. It would have gone on longer, and it would have ended up with the same result. And Joe Biden losing, which he probably wouldn't have liked to do.
The fear that I have as a Democrat looking at this number, first of all, I love Bernie, but I love Hillary too. I've supported her over Obama in 2008. Is that if it's decided this early, there could be a certain cockiness creep in that we've got this thing in the bag, which ain't the case. So how does she rack up now against whoever might be the likely GOP nominee?
She has to figure out a way, and she's bad at this, figure out a way to pretend that she's the underdog when she's not, to come off as somebody who's got challenges that she has to face when she does not. Look, the general election is a whole other ballgame, and much as the Republicans are in disarray right now in the presidential field, she is not going to win the presidency in anything but 3 yards in a cloud of dust. And if she does, it would be lucky, not based on skill. I mean, these are tough elections, and So I think she's got to figure out a way to guard against that cockiness, and we see it come out from her sometimes. We see that cockiness. We see the smugness.
Yeah.
And people don't like it.
And certainly among her supporters who have thought all along, right, that she's the next president of the United States, and why are we even having an election, let alone a primary?
Well, elections are inconvenient things sometimes. 2008, they derailed her, her march to the presidency. So I think that is a huge challenge for her, and not one that we've seen her overcome well in the past.
All right, so who's she likely to get up against? We look at the latest Quinnipiac poll nationwide, out just this morning. Donald Trump at 24 nationwide. Donald Trump at 24, Carson at 23. Marco Rubio at Rubio Rising, they're calling it, at 14, with Ted Cruz at 13 and Jeb Bush at 4. So would you say it's fair to discount anybody else that one of those 5 is going to be the nominee?
Yes, and it's starting to look like you could discount Bush. Nobody's put together a DNR order, do not resuscitate, but man.
Okay.
What's going to say
he's
that?
He's going to have to start breathing on his own because the life support from super PACs is not going to keep him in this race if he continues to be at 4%. He's turned out to be a terrible candidate, much worse than I would have anticipated, much worse than his brother was, much worse than his father. And the Republican Party just isn't having it, but
So, and it's not likely. Everybody says not likely to be Trump or Carson either. That leaves Rubio or Ted Cruz.
That's right. And
one of the two of them you think would be the nominee.
I wouldn't discount Donald Trump being the nominee of the Republican Party yet.
I'm with you, by the way.
I would not discount
I really am
that
with
yet.
you, by the way.
Okay.
I do not think Ben Carson will be the nominee of the Republican Party.
But could be Trump.
I think it could be Trump. Look, Ted Cruz has played a
save
brilliant.
the Republic.
Ted Cruz has played a brilliant game of laying back and saving his money. I think Rubio was very smart, kind of like Cruz, just simply didn't attack his his rivals, ran his campaign, and we're seeing the fruits of that. I think on the Republican side, people are getting a little sick of the bickering, and so Trump is coming down a little bit. He's been trashing people. Carson, who's been very nice to his rivals, is moving up. Rubio, who has refused to address his rivals, is moving up. Ted Cruz, who has largely been a defender of Trump and Carson and some of his other rivals, moving up. And the people that have been a little bit more engaged in the punching have been moving down, including Trump from a much higher plane as a leader of the field.
But even in some of the polls, Trump has come down a little bit, but in other ones, he's sort of stayed while Carson rises. So even when they say, the Trump downfall, some of those polls are pretty much where they were, right?
I think there's a cap.
A
ceiling
I don't want you to think that Trump has gotten too nice. He was asked, because he's at Saturday Night Live, he's hosting this week. He gets all this free media. We can't deny him that. They'll probably get record ratings. And, of course, he was asked, like any other guest host, if he's going to do any impersonations. How about, would you do an impersonation of Jeb Bush?
My Jeb impression? No, I don't want to do that. I don't like showing a person sleeping at a podium.
He's got a way of just sticking the knife in and twisting it, doesn't he?
I mean, I kind of have expected him to say next when he's asked about Jeb Bush, go, Jeb who?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Who is that guy?
But before we take a break, isn't it funny that we have all lived with this myth that among the Bushes, the one who was the best politician of them all was Jeb. And instead we got stuck with George W., right? And that was just sort of some accident. I think we're seeing right now it wasn't an accident. George W. Bush was a good politician.
Absolutely a good politician. He got made fun of for mispronouncing words sometimes, but he actually was a really effective communicator of sophisticated ideas in simple terms.
Well, remember when he was running for president, he just basically says, I believe in these 4 things, right? It was boom, 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 boom. And it was like 4 sentences, but it was his message, and he got it across.
Great at politics, lousy at policy, but could totally.
PEPFAR was pretty good. The AIDS, seriously, combating AIDS in Africa. How many lives saved by that?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely, you're right.
There's some good things. Now, we really brought you in not to talk politics, but to talk. Can you explain? We'll take a break. When we come back, can you explain what's going on with the Nationals?
I can try.
John Allen,
I've got my theories.
John Allen here, master of all things. 866-55-PRESS. You want to weigh in on Hillary or the Republican, or the or the Republican field, or the Nats. We'll be right back.
Like politics? Then like The Bill Press Show on Facebook. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is why you took a second job. While you taught yourself how to fix the plumbing. While you'll do whatever it takes to keep your home. And that is why we want to help. We are making home affordable, a free government resource that can make paying the mortgage easier. Call 888-995-HOPE today.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 12 minutes before the top of the hour. It's the Bill Press Show with John Allen in studio with us, hiding behind. Hello, John. Hello, you there? All right. John, I want you to say hello to Anita from San Antonio. Hi, Anita.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Yeah, John, do you think that that the Carson Trump voters will eventually go to Cruz, and he's most likely actually to win the nomination, which would actually be great for Hillary Clinton because can't think of anybody less likable.
All right, thanks, Anita. Take your answer on the air. Yeah.
So I think, first of all, the answer assumes that Donald Trump and Ben Carson are going somewhere. And I'm not sure that that's true. Again, I don't think Ben Carson is going to win the Republican nomination. I think Trump's likelier to win the nomination. But a lot of these candidates could walk into the convention with delegates. And so then it's not a question of the voters, but a question of the delegates, potentially. But I do think that people who support Donald Trump and people who support Ben Carson are much more likely to go to Ted Cruz than they are to go to Marco Rubio, I think. This is Cruz is at least given lip service to running a real outsider campaign, hates the Washington cartel, as he calls it, is the most outsider of the Republican candidates who hold office in Washington. Can't believe I have to make that distinction. So, but Cruz is the natural for people who support Trump and Carson, I think.
And I think Anita's reflecting what I hear from a lot of my Democratic friends is their dream candidate is Ted Cruz.
Should always be careful what you wish for in politics.
I know, exactly.
Dream candidate. Yikes.
Every time I hear that, I feel the same way. On the Nats, what a mess, right? Okay, we end up with Dusty Baker, but how we got there, what's going on? Sheer incompetence or what?
It looks that way from the outside, right? They go after Bud Black, the former Padres manager, and they end up with Dusty Baker after Bud Black basically balks at what he sees as a lowball offer.
But they hired him without discussing terms of the contract or money, or how did that?
Well, I think they leaked that they were going to hire him because they weren't able to do the hiring until after the World Series, I think, under baseball rules.
Yeah. The thing that I like, when you leak this information out and then you realize that you're hitting some sort of a snag with negotiations, maybe you could leak something else out. Like, hey guys, hold up just a little bit. We don't have this deal done yet, but there was no communication between the club and the media that there was a problem with Bud Black up until Sunday night?
Yeah, so then I keep saying Bud Black balks because he was a pitcher, and balks seems like the particular word. But I mean, they should have had some indication before they leak this about what he wants to be paid.
Totally.
And I think they end up with a great manager.
And a year? They're giving him a contract for just a year?
That's what they offered Bud Black, just a year contract, which is embarrassing, honestly.
Yeah.
That's an embarrassing offer to make.
Yeah, if you're a manager, you want more security. But the truth is, no matter what number of years you get as a manager,
right.
I mean, eventually you'll have some sort of separation in the middle of a season, or maybe at the end of one.
It's like any contract in television that we were always told. It doesn't matter how many years you have in your contract; they'll fire you tomorrow if they want to get rid of you.
I think they feel like they have a very short window now. They used to feel like they had a large window to win the World Series, and I think they feel like they got a short one now. And I think they would like to make it incumbent. I think they want the manager to not feel comfortable at any point.
Is there any truth to the theories that I've heard that the Nats wanted Dusty Baker in the first place?
I don't know if there's truth to it, but it would not surprise me if that was the case. Look, he's got more experience as a manager. He's taken 3 teams, I think 3 teams to the playoffs. He's been manager of the year 3 times before. This is a guy who knows what he's doing and has a little bit of both, the best of both worlds in terms of having been a player himself and relating to the players and actually having experience as a manager. Bud Black was similar in that way. What Bud Black hasn't done the way that Dusty Baker has is manage a superstar. The Nationals have Bryce Harper. Sometimes it's hard to manage a superstar and get him working with the team in the right way. Dusty Baker had Barry Bonds in San Francisco.
Whoa, yeah.
And really understood how to get the superstar playing with the team.
But they brought him out of retirement, right? Dusty Baker, wasn't he?
Yeah, and there was an aloof quality to Matt Williams, right? Like I think that he lost the players early on in this past season. Whereas by all accounts, Dusty Baker is a player's manager, right? Like he knows the players, he knows the game, and I think he'll get right in there.
I mean, he was he was known as like his great teammate in Los Angeles as a Dodger back in the 70s.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. John Allen telling us today that Hillary Clinton is going to be the Democratic nominee and Donald Trump's likely to be, or could be, the Republican nominee.
Likely's hard. I haven't leaned it that far yet.
No, not quite. All right. Well, we'll catch you next time. Thanks, John, for coming in.
Thanks, Bill.
All right. Talk to you soon. I'll be back to tell you what's on the president's schedule today.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go. We're winding up hour number 2, ready to jump into hour number 3. And remember, you got a choice here. You can delay, hang around to watch on Free Speech TV. We hope you do at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific, where you can watch it right away, or both, but right away on TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. At the top of the hour, Congressman John Garamendi from California joins us to talk about the problems in the House getting a simple transportation bill passed to take care of our crumbling infrastructure in this country. Hey, hang around for hour number 3.
A few years ago, plastic bag waste in our city came to a tipping point. It was clear we had a bag problem. My department was tasked to reduce plastic bag consumption. We needed to come up with ways to change human behavior. So we asked ourselves,
would you like a bag?
What do people really hate?
Yep.
Getting punched in the stomach. Preliminary studies showed that the consequences weren't severe enough to warrant behavioral change.
Actually, can I get that double bagged?
So we thought, what do people hate more than getting punched in the stomach? Kissing Helga.
Hey, big boy.
People didn't find her so offensive after all, so we had to get creative.
How many bags? Okay, now, pour this ice water down your pants.
We tried everything.
Eat this rat. Defuse this bomb.
Even fighting your clone. After blowing through millions of dollars of government funds on research, I came up with a brilliant idea.
Why don't we just charge 5 cents per bag?
That's a stupid idea.
Would you like a bag?
Yes.
5 cents a bag.
5 cents? 5 cents? Do I still have the option of getting punched?
Honestly, I don't know how everyone else missed it.
Why don't you just get a reusable bag?
This is the Bill Press Show.
Congressman John Garamendi joining us at the top of the next hour here in studio on the Bill Press Show. President Obama, not a lot on the schedule today. He and the Vice President get the daily briefing at 10:30. And then this afternoon at 2:30, the President will be participating in a conference call with those who are working to sign up new people for the Affordable Care Act. Volunteers taking phone calls on the Affordable Care Act. The President's going to be doing a conference call with them. This evening, he has a fundraising event out in Potomac, Maryland, nearby, for the Democratic National Committee. We have our press briefing with Josh Earnest at 12:30 down at the White House. I'll be there. We'll tell you all about it tomorrow. Again, Congressman John Garamendi joining us at the top of the next hour to find out what's happening in the House with a new Speaker, Paul Ryan, and what are the prospects for a transportation bill. And then Rebecca Leber from the New Republic joins us at the half hour. One more hour coming up.
This
Stay with us.
is the Bill Press Show.
The hardest moments for me is when I'm laying awake in the middle of the night and I'm thinking about all the times I made a pitcher of Kool-Aid with the water, or I boiled a pot of corn or potatoes with the water. Those thoughts just stick with me in the middle of the night, and I feel horrible as a mom that I didn't know that something was wrong, but how could I have known? There's no way I would have known.
The spill at Dan River happened when a drainage pipe that ran underneath an ash basin and dam collapsed, sucking out 6 decades of waste and spewing gunk directly into the river.
My husband and I just kind of looked at each other like, should we be concerned? We live right next to an ash pond, and this was coal ash spilling into the Dan River, and we learned at that point all of the toxins that were included in coal ash.
A situation like Dan River, where there was a catastrophic disaster, gets people's attention, but the fact is that these coal ash pits have been leaking and poisoning people's groundwater and the state's surface waters for decades. Coal ash is the residue left behind after coal is burned in a coal-fired power plant. A large coal-fired power plant can burn 10 million tons of coal a year. When the organic matter in the coal is burned away, what's left behind are these trace minerals, things like arsenic, lead, mercury, selenium, and chromium. And these are highly concentrated. The coal ash can have concentrations of these contaminants that are 10 to 100 times greater than the level in the coals themselves.
Coal ash pond number 1 is right behind my house, literally pretty much in my backyard. We were approached by a neighbor who was wanting to have their well tested, and we decided that maybe we should have ours tested as well. They found hexavalent chromium at 4.5 parts per billion.
So in talking to the residents, we have discovered anecdotal evidence of an extraordinary number of cancers for this fairly small community.
Some of us in the community got together. We started kind of talking about all the cancer that we've seen in some of our family friends in this community. I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of around 70 names. So we had some help from our river keepers putting a map together, and it was a little shocking to see it. You know, I still have a hard time looking at it.
Technically, EPA has not regulated coal ash as a hazardous waste, but it is undeniable that coal ash contains many, many hazardous substances that are hazardous, in fact, to people and the environment. And the only reason they have not been regulated as such is because of intense lobbying efforts by the coal industry and its allies.
A lot of these chemicals are simple elements, but when you find them at the levels that they exist in around coal ash ponds, then you're starting to talk about cancer, brain tumors, you're talking about birth defects, developmental problems, neurotoxicity.
We began to look at legal options, cases that we could bring in court to protect communities and their citizens from these toxic leaking time bombs. In 2002, North Carolina enacted a public financing mechanism for judicial elections. This kept private money out of judicial elections.
The repeal of the public financing program in judicial elections in North Carolina creates a dangerous precedent for all, and it gives corporate polluters and other special interests the opportunity to elect the judges that they want. And this is important for us all. Everyone should care about this, because when you think about the fact that the state and the federal government have basically abdicated their responsibility to regulate these issues, the state courts are the last stopgap.
I think this is no longer a problem that's going to go under the radar. It has been exposed, and I am confident that we will ultimately, with the facts, win out and ensure that we have protected waterways.
And so this is something that we all should care about. If we're worried about the water we drink and the air we breathe, we have to be concerned about money in judicial elections.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
In Ohio, voters say no to pot. In Houston, they say yes to discrimination against anybody. Doesn't matter. You can discriminate as much as you want in Houston from now on. Man, what a weird election yesterday. Hello, everybody. Great to see you. It is Wednesday, November 4. This is the Bill Press Show. We are here in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Booming out to you coast to coast on your local progressive talk radio station and on Free Speech TV. Good to see you, whether you are listening on the radio or watching on television. Thanks for being with us as we round up the news of the day, bring it to you, and give you a chance to sound off about it at 866-55-PRESS. That's our toll-free number. Or you can just send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show or on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. I guess that's the 21st century way of doing it. Send us your comments on the social media. The 20th century way is to give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Either way, we're glad to hear from you. And we always tell you that one of the reasons we love being on Capitol Hill is because, you know, we can occasionally snag a senator or a member of Congress on their way to work, walking to the Capitol. And we're very pleased to welcome to the studio today a good friend, a longtime friend from California, Congressman John Garamendi.
Great
Hey, Congressman.
to be with you, Bill.
Good to see you.
Love your show.
A neighbor,
Yes.
as well
we
as...
live nearby here in Capitol Hill. It's just a 10-minute walk
You know
to
what's
get to your place.
It's a good neighborhood, isn't it?
It's a great neighborhood. Eastern Market. Can't go wrong.
Isn't it? It's really the heart, at least of this end of
Well,
Washington.
it's the heart of the best part because this is where you live.
This is where we live, yes, indeed. And then there are some people like, I won't mention any names, who
Ne'er-do-wells like
who live in Germantown.
his staff.
I he lives in Pennsylvania, I think. Is
Practically.
Yeah, they're commuters.
Yeah.
Fouling the air, clogging the highways.
There you go.
Hey, I drive a Prius.
All right.
That helps.
That helps.
Peter Ogburn joined by Jamie Benson.
Here we are.
Hello there.
Ray Rogers and Cyprian Bolding, our entire team, and we welcome you all. You know, Congressman, there's some weird stuff going on the political scene, as you know, and the Republicans are not happy with the tough questions they got at the debates, right? Now, you've been a candidate several times yourself. Yeah. I mean,
Actually, 29 times.
Is that right? Okay. Well, running for office, I mean, answering tough questions is one of the things you kind of have to do, right?
You should expect it. And you should expect any kind of question. When you're standing there, it can come from left field. In fact, it can come from outer space, and suddenly you got to deal with it.
Right.
And stop whining. It's the game. It's the way it is.
Thank you. So I just wanted to, before we get started, the issues of the day. So Ted Cruz actually came up with this crazy idea that if you haven't voted in a Republican primary, you cannot be a moderator in a Republican primary debate. So he goes on Fox News last night, and even Megyn Kelly of Fox News has to say, this is nonsense. Here she is.
Let me challenge you on that. Do you have any idea whether Brett Baier or Chris Wallace have ever voted in a Republican primary?
I have no idea, and I'm guessing you may tell me whether Megyn Kelly has.
So neither do I. I have no idea, but I can tell you as a fact that those are two of the most fair, talented journalists in the business. So under your rule, they could potentially be excluded from anchoring a presidential debate.
Just shows how crazy it is, right? Tim Russer, Jim Lehrer. I mean, think about people who moderated debates.
Well, don't you think that we ought to be able to choose who the moderator is? And we ought to know the questions ahead. In fact, we ought to give them the questions ahead of time.
That's next.
That's next.
Yeah. No.
That's not the game. I mean, you got to stand up there and take the heat. And the questions come from left field. You got to be able to field them. Because after all, you want to be president of the United States.
Yeah. And I thought President Obama made a great point the other day when he says, boy, like, if you're afraid of Anderson Cooper, the Chinese and the Russians are not going to be afraid of you, right?
I suppose so.
So what's going on in the House, Congressman, with a new speaker, a new day, and we're going to get all kinds of things done, right?
For a while. Through all the easy stuff, yes. But the underlying division in the Republican Party didn't disappear. In fact, it was probably enhanced because they were successful in getting rid of Boehner. And so now they've got a notch on their belt, and we'll see what happens. But that problem remains, and it'll show itself many, many times over the next year and a half.
So the Freedom Caucus, you believe, is still as strong as it ever was?
You mean the Tea Party caucus?
Yes, right. That so-called Freedom Caucus.
Yeah,
right.
Well, it's really the Tea Party group.
Yeah.
It's even stronger because they won.
Because they won, right.
They won. And, they're quiet right now. They've got their victory. Now Ryan is in a very, very difficult situation because that split, the Tea Party caucus and the more traditional Republicans, that split is still there. And that is a very, very tenuous coalition.
Is he... we don't know that much about Paul Ryan, and his initial statements I find are kind of contradictory. Everybody says, well, this is a guy that we can work with, right? This is a guy who wants to get things done. And yet at the same time, he says, I'm going to abide by the Hastert rule.
Well, that's the problem that they're going to have in their caucus, because the Hastert rule says the majority of their caucus has to go along, but there's a significant minority that won't. And that significant minority is enough to take away the speakership. You need 218 continuing solid votes to be speaker. And if you don't have that 218, then you've got to go to that caucus and cut a deal with them. And what they want is not good for this nation and certainly not good for the operations of Congress.
On immigration reform, a big problem that we've faced in California for 30, 40 years, right? And facing this nation, after the shellacking that Mitt Romney got in 2012, the Republicans said, boy, we know what we've got to do. We've got to take the lead on immigration reform, right? Obviously now...
They went exactly the opposite direction.
Exactly the opposite. And Paul Ryan was asked about it yesterday at his news conference, and he said, we're not going to do any immigration reform with President Obama because we don't trust him.
Well, this is really foolish. First of all, if we do immigration reform, it'll be done next year, which is an election year. We ought to do it. There's an enormous need to do something. It would not be implemented. There's nothing that the president could do because the law would not be implemented during his term. It would be the next president that would be left to implement it.
Point.
So that argument is it's foolish argument. It does not stand the test of the calendar. So come on, there must be another reason. The reason is that you're scared to death of that Tea Party caucus.
Plus, the plan that President Obama has, which is kind of doing something even more on border security, even though he's done a lot already, a path to citizenship, and making sure that the current law where employers cannot just hire people who are here illegally, those three planks of it, that's basically the same thing that George W. Bush proposed when he was president. And Republicans in the past supported.
Yeah, exactly. We've known for 5 years now what a comprehensive immigration reform bill looks like. It's those things. Border security. No, we're not going to go build a wall, but we do need border security. It's all part of what it is. We need to have a way of testing that a person is or is not here legally, and that's part of the e-verification. We need to have we got to regularize, that is, bring people out of the dark, put them out there so that we know who they are, give them the papers that they need. Some will want to become citizens, others won't. They can go in the line. Some will have to pay fines. That's good. All of those things. We've known this all along. And then we need to have certain visa opportunities for those particular classifications of workers that are not available in the United States. For example, agricultural workers and some high tech.
Mm-hmm. So we know what the answer.
We've known for months, years.
And if you put it up for a vote, if they would just hold a vote on the floor of the House today?
Well, it'd be close. It would be close. But if you did this, if you took those 5 elements and you broke them into separate bills and do what we used to do in the California legislature, which is to tie them all together, so you would get the liberals, progressives voting for probably all of it, maybe not, but they'd vote for it. The conservatives would vote for theirs. You'd be able to cobble together enough votes, and all of the individual bills would then go to the president's desk at the same time. He'd sign them. Good, we've got it done. Those who could not vote for e-verification, they get off the hook. So forth. You could do it.
All right. So that's called governing, right?
Yes.
Another way that we used to see governing work was on transportation bills. Now, you're on the House Transportation Committee. I remember Ray LaHood.
Yeah.
When he was Republican, named by President Obama as his first Secretary of Transportation. He came into our briefing room down at the White House a couple of years ago, pleading with his fellow Republicans to pass the transportation bill, a 5-year bill so people could make their plans and everything. And he used this phrase, I've never seen a Republican road or a Democratic road. There's just roads that need fixing.
And we really do. We have an enormous need. 63,000 bridges across the United States likely to fall down, or at least fall apart. We've got highways, potholes everywhere. We've got congestion. We have Amtrak that needs to be upgraded. We've got to get the positive train control in. We've got freight issues. The economy is slowed down because of our transportation infrastructure system is not the 20th century. It's about the 19th century. Look at many of these bridges were built in the 1800s. So we need to do this, and we're not going to get the job done. It's just not going to happen. It's an enormous disappointment to me and frustration.
Well, it must be. And what are the arguments against it? I mean,
we will have a 6-year bill. There's a 6-year bill. The problem is it continues the inadequate funding that we have today. We know that the funding that exists, even with the start-stop, the short-term kick the can down the road, the funding levels are woefully inadequate. I mean, the funding levels continue the deterioration of the system. So we've got a 6-year bill that locks in for 6 years an inadequate amount of money, which will guarantee that at the end of the 6 years, we'll be worse off than we are today. And I'm going, what in the world do we want to do that for? Well, apparently we're going to do it.
So in other words, there's just enough money kind of to keep things the way they are now, but not to make any improvements or build any new?
Yes and no. No new projects, some new projects, but nothing that we really need. And it will not be enough money to maintain what we have. And so we will see a continuing decline, deterioration in the quality of what we have. There'll be some new projects built here and there across the nation, but the kind of really robust infrastructure investment that China's made, that Europe has made, not going to happen.
And that at one time we made with pride. I mean, we in California always talk about Pat Brown, right? The great builder, built the state university system, the state water project, and the state highway system. Dwight Eisenhower built the interstate highway system. This used to be a point of pride, right? For building things. We don't do it anymore.
Exactly. We're afraid to invest in the future. In fact, there's a part of that Tea Party caucus wants to do what's called devolution, and that is to get the federal government out of this entirely and to send it all back to the states. So you're running down Interstate 80 from the East Coast to the West Coast, and somewhere in the middle there's a state that says, not my problem, and that part of the road just gone.
Yeah, and you're back to a 2-lane road with stoplights.
Or gravel.
It
just... This country was built on the best infrastructure in the world, and we've lost that.
How much of the problem with the transportation funding is due to the fact that cars are getting better mileage, people are paying less in gas taxes, therefore the source of the revenue is way down? Fundamental problem. That's a real
and
problem.
There's 2 pieces to it. First of all, the last time the gasoline and diesel tax, federal, was raised was 1993. So we're talking a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
And so the inflation is eaten into that. It's probably worth less than half in terms of being in its actual value. And exactly what you said. Cars are at least twice the miles per gallon, at least twice.
And they're going to get better.
Even more so.
Well, they're required to under the new CAFE
And then you've
standards.
got electric cars, hydrogen power, compressed natural gas, none of which pay a tax. And so there'll be free riders on the system, and there'll be more and more of that. The bottom line of it is that the revenue that comes in has declined in its value and in the amount that's coming in, even though the number of cars has doubled.
Yeah.
So this is the fundamental underlying problem is we're not raising the revenue necessary to even keep pace.
So what's the answer? Raising the gas tax?
You just cleared the hall saying that word.
I know.
Everybody just disappears. Whoa. It's really interesting. Not to name names, but one of the big Republican organizations came in a couple of years ago to meet with the Democrats on the committee and said, you've got to raise the gasoline tax and the diesel tax. And went on and on and on. I mean, this is one of the most powerful Republican operation and the leader. And I guess I had the temerity to say, so we do that, and then we go to the next election, and you attack us for raising the gasoline tax? And he looked at us and he said, well, he didn't answer the question. So the reality is, everybody knows that this is something that could be done and arguably should be done. But all of us know that if we do it, it becomes the principal weapon used against us in the next election, and therefore nothing happens. But there are ways we can do this, and in fact, the president suggested a way of doing it, and then, to my mind, unfortunately, didn't push the issue. And that is American corporations are hiding their profits overseas. And there's a notion of repatriating, that is to bring those profits back and tax them at literally less than half of the normal corporate tax rate. The president's proposal would raise about $150 billion over the next 5 to 6 years. You add that to the existing gasoline and diesel tax, and we can increase the funding by $140, $150 billion, which will move us forward, repair the roads, keep things in good repair, repair the bridges, and add to the ability to move in our nation, making critical investments.
Yeah, that's a sound plan. That's a way of doing it. It's Congressman John Garamendi, member of the House Transportation Committee here from California with the latest news of the day. Give us a call if you want, or if you have a question or a comment at 866-55-PRESS. Quick break. We'll be right back.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour, here with Congressman John Garamendi, representing the 3rd Congressional District from California. Congressman, I just wanted to note that what we were just talking about, this plan of repatriating this money or whatever you call it, you've offered that as an actual amendment to the highway transportation.
I did last night in Rules Committee, and the idea is I did two things. One is to increase the funding level to what the president suggested, which would be an additional 140-some billion.
Which will enable us to get things done and to build for the future.
We could actually invest and build for the future, put people to work. You'd put a couple million people to work within a year if you did that. And then pay for it by American corporations that have skipped out on their obligation to this country. You know, they've simply avoided paying their fair share of what it takes to run this country. So bring that money back, put that into this transportation for the infrastructure investment, which would be good for them in the long run.
Sure.
So let's do it. Will it happen? Well, they haven't. The Rules Committee hasn't yet. Well, I don't know if they've made a decision to allow that to come to a vote on the floor. We'll see.
We're just out of time, but I hope you're also getting some support from people like the Chamber of Commerce or the National Association of Manufacturers or classic Republican groups ought to be for this as well.
Well, this is the thing. We could and should have built a coalition around a robust, fully funded transportation bill. It didn't happen. Now we have 6 years of mediocrity.
John Garamendi, great to see you, Congressman. Thanks so much for coming in.
Always a pleasure.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Perfect.
The average text takes your eyes off the road for nearly 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop the texts, stop the wrecks.
Before now, it's been difficult for criminals like us to know which states have loose gun laws. How would a criminal like me know which states permit me to carry loaded guns in their amusement parks, golf courses, or beaches?
I have some violent friends. We all wear leather jackets and scream at women. And we want to find out which states we can buy and sell guns easily.
CrimAdvisor.com. That's the site to find out where it's easiest for felons and fugitives to buy, carry, and even traffic guns.
That's why I love Arizona, where I can go see the beautiful Grand Canyon and carry a loaded gun without even having to get a background check.
You would fail that background check.
I'm sure of it. Now, what about a road trip? What states can I go to fill my trunk with guns and take it back home for my even more dangerous friends?
CrimAdvisor has a list for that.
That's so unreasonable.
Our traffickers' top 10.
Nevada. What happens in Vegas may have to stay in Vegas, but your guns don't, bring them over to California and sell them.
The market up there is hungry for guns.
I understand that crimadvisor.com will tell me which states really cater to us criminals and creeps, but what about the states where we're not so welcome? The ones that don't get us?
I don't even like saying the name of these states, but California, Connecticut, Maryland, and New York all have laws to keep guns out of the hands of people like us.
I want to shoot California so bad.
Boo, California.
Boo, go home. Wow, crimadvisor.com has all this information?
Sure does.
crimadvisor.com. Plan your perfect getaway. Oh, like TripAdvisor.
Oh.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
What the frack?
President Obama, are you fracking kidding me?
Reopen the EPA studies. In Texas, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania.
Fracking pollutes our oceans.
Fracking poisons our water.
Fracking makes climate change worse.
Fracking relies on toxic chemicals that cause cancer.
Ban fracking now.
Ban fracking now.
Go on. Ban it.
Ban fracking now.
Please.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
You got it. It is Wednesday, November 4, The Bill Press Show. Hello, hello, everybody. Those of you listening on the radio, those of you watching on television, it's good to have you with us. As we boom out to you from our nation's capital, our studio in Capitol Hill, where we're brought to you today by the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. Under President Jim Hoffa, the men and women of the Teamsters Union, we all live better because of their good work, as you will find when you go to their website at teamster.org. Well, what do you know? The Keystone Pipeline still under review by the State Department. The big question, what will the State Department conclude, and then will the president approve it or disapprove it? Before that could even play out, suddenly TransCanada, the force behind, the Canadian company behind the pipeline, sends a letter to Secretary of State John Kerry saying, please put it on hold, please put it on pause. We want to take some time out. What's the latest on that? Rebecca Leber covers these issues for the New Republic and joins us in studio this morning. Hi, Rebecca. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So is TransCanada getting cold feet, or I guess the Canadian company getting cold feet? I didn't mean to play on words there with a bad pun. But what? Well, first of all, this came up, of course, yesterday at the White House briefing. It dominated the briefing. It was the very first question, and then almost every other question after that. But Josh Earnest said at least he found this a little strange.
It seems unusual to me to suggest that somehow it should be paused yet again.
So what is TransCanada up to? What do you think?
So this was a surprise turn of events earlier this week where they sent a letter. We saw in the span of about 24 hours a reverse of positions where TransCanada was requesting a delay after blaming the administration for stall tactics for years on this issue. And you're seeing now on the flip side environmentalists calling for a decision now before Obama leaves office. So it's definitely a role reversal.
It is, but is TransCanada, are they really saying we think we can get a better deal? They're not abandoning the pipeline, or are they? Or are they just saying we think we can get a better deal from the next president, who might just be a Republican?
So it's probably the latter. Right now, economics and politics doesn't look good for TransCanada, for Obama to rule on this before he's out of office. Oil prices are very low, and that has slowed tar sands oil production in Canada. And it's thrown the future of building these pipelines, Keystone being one of them, in doubt. So that's one issue. And the second is politics. Obama has hinted that he will rule against it before he leaves office. And TransCanada seems to be playing a bet that if a Republican succeeds Obama, then he would rule in favor of the pipeline.
Is the White House going to, or the State Department going to agree to TransCanada's request for a pause?
Not based on yesterday's White House briefing. This was a letter that requested a suspension, and it's not clear. It doesn't look like the State Department might honor that request. Josh Earnest yesterday was explaining that this was a bit odd, as you mentioned, and they are still on track to decide on this before Obama leaves office.
So they say, well, you accuse us of a delay. Now that you want a delay, too bad, right? We're going to barge ahead. But when we've been waiting for this other shoe to drop for 7 years now, right? I mean, why is it taking so long, and when is the State Department likely to make its recommendation to the president?
One reason it's taken so long that you don't hear as much about at the federal level is that there have been a lot of troubles on deciding the route through Nebraska, and a lot of court battles that have tied it up for this long. So the reason
hasn't that been resolved by now? No.
Well, just last month there was a turn of events where TransCanada decided to not pursue eminent domain against landowners who were opposing the pipeline crossing their lands. And instead of pursuing those costly legal battles, they decided to drop that and still request permission, but through another route.
Mm-hmm. All right. So is it harder? It seems to me, well, I'm going to come back just to complete that train of thought, that, again, the indication from Josh yesterday, clear, and I was there, clearly was, we're going to continue to proceed on our pace. The State Department will make its recommendation to the president, and the president will make his decision and hopefully do so before he leaves office, that he'd like to do that. Which gets to my next question is, isn't it harder and harder to make the case for the Keystone pipeline today than it was maybe 7 years ago? Because, as you pointed out, the price of oil is way down. We're producing already more oil here internally in the United States than we are importing. You know, we already have achieved a certain level, certainly, of energy independence. We haven't entirely done away with imports, but we're producing more. I mean, and everybody says that pipeline would not impact the price of gas in the United States, which is also down now, lower than it's been for a long time. So, I mean, why do we need this pipeline anymore, if we ever did?
The timing has never been better for the president to rule against Keystone, and that is why you're seeing everyone from environmentalists to even TransCanada admitting anonymously that they think Obama will rule against it. And the reason why is we're seeing the administration really ramp up its climate ambitions for the last year or two ahead of a Paris climate conference at the end of the year. So I've been wondering when this will drop, like everyone else, and there have been rumors since midsummer that it could be any day in the lead up to Paris, but we really don't know. It could come after.
With President Obama's stated emphasis and I think pretty clear desire to do something big time about climate change, and he's already done more than any other president, wouldn't it be a total contradiction for him to approve the Keystone Pipeline?
That's, I think, shown how much this issue has grown over the years. I think a few years ago, his thinking didn't seem to be in that area on Keystone. His public comments on it were more in line with what TransCanada has said. This is one infrastructure project of many. But in the last year, you've seen a really different tone from him on Keystone, where he's saying this is dirty fuel from another country that we're likely to just export. And that has indicated that he does see this conflicting with the rest of his climate agenda.
But yeah, it just seems to me it would be hard for him to say, I am Mr. Climate Change, right? I am the president for climate change. And by the way, I approve this stinky old pipeline, right? You can't have it both ways, I think. Maybe he's starting to see that, which gets to the politics of this pipeline as well. Were you surprised to see Hillary Clinton come out against it when, as Secretary of State, she was pretty warm toward it?
I guess not surprised right now, given how strongly environmentalists have mobilized around this. It was becoming harder and harder for her to dodge this issue. Before she came out on this, she was facing questions from reporters and audience members at almost every campaign spot. And the further the administration delayed, the harder this was for her to say, I don't have a position. So she did come out against it, which was a change from her time as Secretary of State. But I'm not surprised given the rest of the agenda she's come forward with. And like you said, that this contradicts the rest of Obama's climate agenda. Clinton has talked about climate change as a priority, and her supporting Keystone would conflict with that.
Yeah. It does. It is evidence of the very effective grassroots campaign that environmental organizations put together around this issue, right? I mean, for just the fact that people would show up at her campaign events and ask the question, that's not accidental, right? That's a movement, sign of a movement, I think. Who's led this campaign, the environmental opposition campaign?
There's Bill McKibben, of course, doing a lot of public campaigning.
He's the number one, isn't he?
Yeah. But in Nebraska, like we talked about, there's been a lot of organizing, especially among homeowners and ranchers. And
remember, Peter, we had a woman on from Nebraska who was head of it.
Jane Cleve, perhaps. She has been a huge organizer on this issue, and also she's very out in front. And has organized a lot of the grassroots opposition, like you said.
Yeah, and we had Bill McKibben's been on the show as well. What's his name of his organization?
350.org.
That's right,
yeah.
350.
Yeah,
350.org.
And now they are launching, widening the Keystone issue to a Keep It in the Ground movement. And that is, they're seeming to target that energy and making it a movement to keep all fossil fuels in the ground.
Oh, so not even even if the Keystone Pipeline is not built, that the Canadians won't build a pipeline either, right? I mean, those tar sands will stay in the ground.
Well, if their campaign works.
That's what I mean. That's the goal of their campaign. Right, yeah. Rebecca Leber here with us talking. The impact, the possible outlook, whatever, all the issues surrounding Keystone Pipeline. And next on the agenda, not that far away, the big summit in Paris. Will President Obama go, and what are we likely to see come out of that summit? Maybe better than Kyoto. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. It's a big issue to all of you. We know. Weigh in. Here's your chance.
Follow us on Twitter at BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The most valuable morning radio show, according to The Nation magazine. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 12 minutes before the top of the hour on this Wednesday, November 4. Hope you're having a good day, starting off at any rate, and thank you for joining us here. The Bill Press Show. Good to have Rebecca Leber from the New Republic here in studio with us as well. Staff writer, particularly on environmental and energy issues and climate change. Talking about Keystone Pipeline, everything is seen today in the context, Rebecca, of Paris. When is it? What's going to happen?
It kicks off at the end of November and runs for about 2 weeks. And we are expecting a global deal, if all goes well, to cut carbon emissions from that account for about, I believe the number is 80% of emissions over the world, which is a huge deal given that past conferences haven't achieved the same result.
Why do we expect anything different this time?
We've seen the administration is one big reason why, and we're seeing
the United States is finally taking it seriously.
Obama has long before Paris, he made climate change a priority and has forged a series of bilateral deals with countries like China, the big emitters, to get them on board. And that progress has created what people like to talk about as momentum, that a very positive momentum for lowering emissions. And the other piece of it is the economics are really good for clean energy right now. Prices have come down a lot. Coal has never been more expensive, and countries like China are now in the process of instituting cap and trade.
Peter, when are we spending all 2 weeks in Paris, or is it just 1 week?
I think we're going to go actually ahead of time so we get the full 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
You want to get used
good.
to the time change.
Yeah.
And then we'll be there for the whole 3 weeks, right? Don't you
Because
think?
don't you think we have to be there and report from the scene?
Service journalism.
It's too important to
Yeah.
do from by long distance.
Yeah, I agree with you, boss.
All right. Okay. Good. Yeah.
It'll be a zoo.
I'm
That's
sure.
the typical climate conference.
Yeah, I'm sure that will. But is President Obama going to lead the U.S. delegation? If not, who would?
I'm not sure. I don't think there's been official word, but he's expected to go and talk about this because he's championed this so closely. And you'll see a lot of speeches from world leaders. That's probably going to come more at the beginning of the conference rather than get in the way of the negotiations that usually run up to the last hour. And you should expect to see strong statements like you have at other UN climate summits.
So this is a UN climate summit, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that may answer my question, next question, which was, who will be, I mean, if the president goes, it'll be ceremonial, but who is the head of our team? Is it Samantha Power, UN rep? Is it Secretary of State John Kerry? Is it the head of the EPA?
It's Secretary Kerry, and Todd Stern is the chief negotiator who has been negotiating these conferences for decades. He's been at, I believe, all of the major ones, and has a lot of experience in dealing with some of the sticking points we'll see in Paris.
Mm-hmm. And there will be so the intended goal is a document signed by all these nations, right, that they will cut their carbon emissions by 80%?
Well, that might not be spelled out in the agreement, but the structure for this accord is basically to tie together individual pledges from every country on what they will do to combat climate change. So you're seeing separate plans from China, from India, Canada, the U.S., and the purpose of the negotiations is to both tie that together and also add some transparency provisions to that and accountability.
Right. So it really could have an impact. I mean, it's up to each nation to do it, right? The UN can't force them to, but if they all agree, and there'll be monitoring of that, and it really could be a major turning point in dealing with this issue worldwide.
Yeah, the thing you hear about what makes Paris different is the way it's come together is a bottom-up approach. So all of the ambition has come at the national level or even subnational level, and the agreement will only be as strong as some of the biggest polluters want it to be. That's always been the limitation of these conferences. But right now, the ambition looks at least better. It's not enough to get us all the way there, but it's definitely more than we've seen.
So Keystone Pipeline in trouble, and Paris looking good. All good news for the efforts to do something serious finally about climate change, global warming. Rebecca Leber, good beat, interesting beat for you to be writing about, and thank you so much for coming in and sharing it with us this morning. From the New Republic, TNR.com, and I'll come back with a quick parting shot.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, friends and neighbors, what do you say? Good morning. Great to see you this morning. This is The Bill Press Show. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., bringing you up to date on all the news of the day, whether it's happening here in our nation's capital, around the country, around the globe. Coming to you live on your local progressive talk radio station, on Free Speech TV, and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV. Events in the nation's capital. Hi, everybody. It's Bill Press. This year marks the 10th anniversary of doing the Bill Press Show, every day covering the news of the day with the nation's top newsmakers, either on the line or in our studio right here on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Not only that, I go to the White House briefings every day to get answers to the top questions of the day. Bottom line, if it's happening in Washington, D.C., either at the White House or the Capitol, we are all over it. Every day, we welcome to our studio political leaders and reporters and labor leaders and newsmakers to help us understand the issues of the day. You know, we started out as a radio show only, but over the years, we have branched out to all forms of the new media. So today, we're not just a radio show. We are podcasting, streaming audio, streaming video, and we are simulcast live on Free Speech TV nationwide. Reaching out to 40 million households on Free Speech TV, in addition to hundreds of thousands on local radio stations and online.
AFGE is so proud to be associated with this show and looks forward to being working with Bill and this show for a long time.
Bill Press is the right man at the right time with the right message.
And thanks to the Bill Press Show, we get our message out to thousands and thousands of people every day. Thank you, Bill Press.
The Teamsters are a proud partner with Bill Press on his show, telling the truth about what's going on with working families. Tune in.
Yes, it's been a fun and exciting 10 years so far for the Bill Press Show. We're looking forward to many more with all of you, broadcasting live every morning from the nation's capital.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show. The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
Yep, a quick parting shot in case you thought that things might be any different under Paul Ryan. Forget about it. Yesterday he said, no, he's not going to work with President Obama on immigration reform because he doesn't trust President Obama because President Obama signed a couple of executive orders on the Dreamers Act. But of course, the only reason the president signed the executive orders is because Congress refuses to act. In other words, nothing has changed. The Tea Party is still in charge. The French have a phrase for that. The more things change, the more they stay the same. My parting shot for today, folks. Have a great one. Come back and see us again tomorrow.
This is the Bill Press Show.